Two researchers built an add-on for AI assistants. It did exactly what it promised, and every security scanner that checked it came back clean. They were right. There was nothing dangerous inside it. The dangerous part was sitting on a web page somewhere else, a page the researchers could rewrite anytime they wanted. They waited until enough people had installed it, then they rewrote the page.
Context Window, your weekly window into everything AI security.
Welcome to Context Window, your weekly window into everything worth knowing in AI security. Quick thing before we start, full transparency. This podcast is AI generated. 2 AI voices, a script written by another AI agent, the whole thing. But every story, every take, here's what this actually means is curated and verified by Asaf Nakash. He builds AI security products at one of the world's largest security platforms. So yes, the robots do the talking, but a human who lives this stuff makes sure we're not hallucinating.
Good week for that disclosure. The whole episode is about handing in AI instructions written by a stranger and hoping for the best, which now that I hear it out loud is also our production process. If either of us starts taking orders from a web page, let Asaf know.
3 things. The nonprofit behind the security checklist most engineering teams already use published a top 10 risk list for the add-ons that give AI agents their real abilities. 2 software registries ran code before anyone chose to trust it. And 5 federal agencies say attackers are using AI to write attack scripts aimed at the machines that run water plants.
The list is the headline. The part next to it is more interesting. They also proposed a file format, and the fields it asks for tell you exactly what does not exist today.
That is where we start. First, what a skill actually is, because the word carries the whole week. Packaged expertise, you hand an AI agent, instructions plus a few scripts that turn a general assistant into one that knows how to build a landing page or close a support ticket.
Closest thing most people have used is a browser extension, except this one is for your assistant. And it is not only engineers installing them, salespeople do, marketers do. The person clicking install usually cannot read what they installed.
This week, Dark Reading reported that OWASP, the nonprofit whose checklists most engineering teams already work from, published a top 10 risk list for that layer.
2 of the 10 are rated critical, skills that are malicious on purpose and skills poisoned somewhere in their supply chain. One of the 4 rated high cover skills that send the agent off to read instructions from a web page the author controls.
Hold on to that one. It comes back. The list is not really the news. The news is the format they propose next to it. One description file every platform could read.
What is actually in a file like that? Give me the plain version.
A short file that travels with the package. Who published this? Here is the signing key that proves it. Here is a fingerprint of the contents. So if one byte changes, you can tell.
Keep going.
Which files it may touch, which places on the internet it may talk to, everything else denied, how risky it is, and when it was last scanned.
That is a lot to have to ask for.
That is the story. Nobody drafts that file for a layer that already has those things. Every field describes something missing.
Then let me be annoying about the status. This is not a standard. OWASP's own page calls it a new project proposal in active development. Version 1 targeted for the 3rd quarter, draft open for public comment right now.
It is a proposal. It is also the only draft anybody has written.
A draft is not governance.
Agreed on the word, not on the conclusion. Which brings us back to those 2 researchers. In June, researchers at a firm called Air Security built a skill in under an hour. It worked. It generated landing pages for people who cannot code.
And one line in its instructions told the agent to fetch its setup documentation from a domain the researchers owned.
Then they went shopping for trust, 2 signals people use to judge a skill, scanner approval, and stars.
Walk me through the scanner part. Pretend I am the reviewer. I open the package. What do I see?
A description that matches what it does. A few scripts that build landing pages. All of it behaving exactly as advertised.
Malicious code?
None. There is nothing in there to find.
And the line that matters?
Reads like housekeeping. For setup details, see the documentation at this address. On the day you review it, that address is a normal setup page.
So a careful reviewer passes it and is not being careless.
A careful reviewer passes it because the file is clean. The payload was a link. And a link is only as trustworthy as whoever is holding the other end that morning.
The stars they borrowed. They submitted it into a plugin marketplace with a welcoming contribution policy, and after a few anxious days, the maintainers accepted it. Then an ad on Instagram.
Then they swapped the documentation behind the link. Then the victim emails started arriving.
How many?
26,000 agents, some of them belonging to companies, from a skill built in an hour by two people who never wrote a single malicious line.
OWASP now cites that work as the evidence behind its risk for untrusted external instructions. Niv Hoffman co-authored it and is one of 8 co-leads on the OWASP project, which leaves the awkward question. None of this is a standard yet. What does a listener do on Monday?
Ask for an inventory, by all means. Expect an incomplete answer because the people installing these are not engineers anymore.
So, what works without a list?
Every attack in this episode needed code to reach somewhere on the internet. In the places your software gets built, deny outgoing network access by default. You may not know what your agents loaded. You can decide where they're allowed to talk.
Same on the skill side. Every address a skill tells an agent to fetch is code nobody read. If it needs an outside instruction source, pin it or block it.
And stop asking which skills you have. Ask who is allowed to install one. A policy about people, not an inventory of files. 2 registry attacks landed this week and both broke the advice everybody has given for a decade. Be careful what you install. Neither needed you to install anything on purpose. Start with NPM. The registry JavaScript developers pull code from a Trend AI, Trend Micro's enterprise business found 14 packages that look like working calendar utilities and carry a Linux backdoor dressed up as a math accelerator. The trick is timing. Developers were taught to watch installation. This one fires when the code is loaded.
Which means a single import anywhere in the chain runs it, even an indirect one. Someone who never chose that package still runs the implant. It calls home to an intrusion kit sold openly since early June for $99.99. No victim count published. I am taking the next one because it happened a layer deeper. Somebody got into the account of a maintainer whose code sits inside a large share of Rust projects and republished 3 of his libraries with one line added. A dependency on a package named one character off a near universal one. Its build script fetched and ran a payload while other people's software was compiling.
Nobody had to run anything.
Compiling it was enough.
Same shape as the NPM one step earlier.
The response time is the number worth keeping. Tipped off by researchers at Nextron Systems, the Rust volunteers deleted the malicious releases 86, 90, and 107 minutes after they appeared, then restored the good versions the attacker had hidden. They say the maintainer's machine or credentials were likely compromised, not that he did this. Nothing to patch, the packages are gone. Completely different story, and I want this one too. 5 federal agencies put out a joint advisory on August 19th. The NSA signed it, along with CISA, the government's civilian cyber defense agency. So did the FBI, the Department of Energy, and the EPA. The subject is Siemens S7 controllers, the small industrial computers that physically open valves and run pumps at water plants. Attackers are pairing open-source industrial libraries with AI-assisted scripting to build tools that mimic ordinary monitoring software, then using ordinary internet scanning to find controllers online with weak or default passwords.
The agency's own framing belongs in a budget conversation. Using AI this way is dramatically reducing the expertise and the time required to build working attack scripts for industrial systems. No group named, no country named, reconnaissance rather than damage so far.
And the overlooked mitigation is not patching. It is third parties. Integrators often hold remote access the plant owner does not know exists, which is exactly what internet scanning turns up.
Last one. OpenAI paused model testing for 2 weeks and started rewriting its own safety rulebook. Axios reported it could not rule out that an unreleased model called Astra had crossed the critical line for cybersecurity risk in its own framework. Training runs are on hold indefinitely.
Most of that framework dates to 2023, when the risks it describes were hypothetical. Anthropic reached the opposite conclusion days earlier, publishing a 186-page risk report, arguing a pause is not required if its safeguards are followed. Two labs, same question, opposite answers.
AI Security.
One argument to close on this week from Asaf, and it comes with a title, Nobody Owns the Skill Layer.
Then let us test it. It sounds obvious until you try to name the owner.
The claim starts with browser extensions. When one turns malicious, there is someone to call. Google can pull the listing, revoke the signature, and push the removal to every machine that installed it. It works.
Now ask the same three questions about the skills your agents loaded this morning.
The room goes quiet. Who reviews them? Who signs them? Who can pull one back?
And the tell is that a new list had to be written at all. The existing ones cover the model and the way an agent reaches its tools. Neither covers what those tools actually get used for. Here is where I get off the train. The objection worth taking seriously: nobody is asleep. Rust's volunteers deleted those releases inside 2 hours. ClawHub, one of the larger skill registries, added automated scanning and partnered with VirusTotal, which runs a file past dozens of engines at once.
That response is real and fast. It is also reactive, discretionary, and dependent on an outsider noticing first. Nothing stands between publishing and installing as a matter of course.
Nothing stood between publishing and installing on extension stores either, for years. Then it did. That is the argument the analogy actually makes.
The analogy breaks where it matters most. A rogue extension is stuck in the browser, a skill runs commands on the machine with the user's credentials inside whatever systems that agent can already reach. Governance, a decade behind. Blast radius on a different scale.
Behind? Yes. Permanent is the part you have not shown me. Every gap looks permanent right up until it closes. I am not conceding this one.
Noted. Registries, signing, and revocation are not solved anywhere. This week's attacks prove that. Everywhere else they are at least owned. Somebody's job.
That word is carrying a lot of weight. Owned by whom? And out of whose budget?
3 pieces, none exotic. A skill registry the organization actually controls with an allow list and a written policy on what may be installed and by whom. Then continuous monitoring of what a skill does once it is running, because a one-time review checks behavior that is free to change later.
Which is exactly how that landing page skill worked. Clean file, payload behind a link, and they changed what sat behind it later.
Third piece is revocation that reaches everywhere at once. So when a public skill turns, one action suspends it on every machine in the company.
Which does not appear to be offered for skills anywhere yet.
Somebody still has to decide to own it. Until that job has a name attached, every skill install is a trust decision made by a person with nothing to check. That's Context Window for the week of August 24th. A risk list arrived for a layer nobody governs, 2 registries ran code before anyone chose to trust it, and 5 federal agencies called AI-assisted attacks on water plant controllers an active threat.
And we are leaving one thing open. One of us thinks AI skills end up governed the way browser extensions eventually were. The other one does not. If you want to pick a side, the full edition is on LinkedIn, where security leaders read it each week, with every source and this week's action items.
See you next week.